and welcome to this edition of Farmer Legacy Show. And this episode is going to be devoted to, or I'll say it this way: in this episode is we're going to find out whether we can increase on this version of Farm Sim, whether the yield on crops can be increased or what have you. I've been seeing a lot of videos where people are saying and showing one way or the other. Well, the main crop they've been using is and talking about is grass. Well, on FS22, grass did have two harvest states. The first one, it was just kind of green. You yielded it, you got a decent yield, but it wasn't a great one. But if you waited till it kind of had that yellowish tint on top, you knew, and it was much thicker and bushier, not thickier, but thicker and bushier, which got you the maximum yield. And I still believe, even on this version of the game, there is a second harvest state. Let's go to the growth chart and let's look at grass. Now we're in September. Okay, you can start planting grass in March and plant as late as November. I planted in November what I've got planted out here. I'll get to that, but I'm just telling you, just keep that in mind. I planted in November. So, but yeah, and so let's focus on grass here. And so I planted my grass in field 3 here in last November, and go back in November. Of course, it did not come up in the fall and the rest of the winter and fall and winter, but it did come up in March, first growth. When it did, well, let me before I'm getting ahead of myself. I planted it in November, but before I planted it, this field has wheat in it when you start on here, and that's what it had. So I had to harvest the wheat, but I didn't harvest the wheat. What I did was I mulched it with this mulcher here, this horse mulcher. You can find it. It's in game on 25. It's under mulchers. It is the biggest mulcher in the game and my favorite. Yeah, it's a little bit heavy because it's a lot of metal, but it takes 270 horsepower to pull it, but it is well worth it. You see, it does 12 miles an hour. But I mulched it. Once I mulched it, I put some fertilizer on it, which gave me 50%. So then, once I got 50%, in this field. I planted, and the planter I used, I'll show you it. I needed a seed driller because that's what plants grass. You can see that third last. You look down the list of crops there. That not the last one. That's spinach, peas, and then grass is the next one to oilseed radish. And this one right here, the cun, is the one I used, which you see right above the list of crops. It does use seed and fertilizer. More importantly, the solid fertilizer. Anyway, so when I planted, I had both in it. I had seed, quite obviously, and I had fertilizer. But when I finished planting, and keep in mind, I didn't cultivate before I planted separately. I used that planter, that seeder, which, go back. If you read down there, we're under the Cun Espero 6000 RC. It says these machines are used to seed crops like wheat, barley, or canola. Additionally, and this is what I wanted to read. Additionally, this seeder offers the possibility to seed directly no previous cultivation or plowing is necessary, which that means you can plant without having to cultivate ahead of it. And that's absolutely true. But what you can't do is plant without cultivating and get it 100% fertilization, because that's what happened here when I was planting this grass. When the grass came up, so let me go back to the growth chart. So I planted in November. Grass didn't come up till March. Excuse me. Let me see where grass is. Yeah. It didn't come up till March. When it came up, it was at 50%. And I rolled, after I planted, I rolled with a regular roller. I'll show you the roller I used. Let me, that one right there, the Valstat. That's a good in-game roller for just regular rolling fields. That's my roller of choice there. This one here, to me, is a little too big. I like this modded one here, but not for regular fields, just for grass fields, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That roller right there, that yellow one, is the one I rolled this grass field with once I initially planted it. Well, it said, at that point, it said 100% yield, but it still said 50% fertilization. I thought, well, and I tried to put fertilizer over the top then, wouldn't let me. I said, well, I'll let the crop grow, get the first growth, it'll let me then. And so I did just that. Let's go back to, so in April, when it should have been, it was first growth in April, I looked at it again, and then I got this fertilizer on my tractor, this broadcaster, and tried to fertilize, and lo and behold, it didn't happen. I didn't get 100% fertilization, so I thought, that's when I realized, okay, you have got to cultivate separate. Even if you use one of them seeders or planters that says no-till, that's what that means, no-till, meaning you don't have to cultivate ahead of planting. As far as the planting, you don't, but to get 100% fertilization, you absolutely most definitely do. Absolutely most definitely, which means you really got to. That's a southern word for absolutely positively. It's a southern short for that. Anyway, so that's what I did. I went and I said, but I ain't going to cultivate with a cultivator. Where's they at? Up here somewhere. I didn't get a cultivator. I got a disc here. I got this one because I wanted to try it out, the Farmet. Loved it. I recommend it if you want. I mean, it's got 10.5 meters is perfect size for this map, and probably any map really to this point on this FS25. So I used it, and time as I went in this field and disc, it went right to 100% fertilization. So I knew I was on the right track. But once I did that, of course, I had to plant again, but I had my 100% fertilization. I had my 100% fertilization, and the next step then, once I got it planted, was to go back and roll it again with, like I said, that roller. Where is it at? Up here? Nope, down here. With that roller, and when I did that, it was 100% yield and 100% fertilization. Now, if you're going to use a field like this here, this one, and plant in it, and see, it's already some spots has 50% fertilization, but some of them don't. See right there, ain't none. That I slung some out when I was fertilizing that grass. Like this here, it ain't nothing to mulch. What you're going to have to, I'll tell you. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's a little different with a field like this that's already been cultivated. So after I after I got that right that was in April, May was the first new growth, and I harvested in June. So in June, when I harvested, out of this field I got, you see this grass on this field here, I just dumped it out because the loader wagon I was using filled up twice, and I'll show you which one of them I used. Let me see if I can find it up here somewhere. Oh, go this way. I'm still getting used to this here mod, the store page here. Which one did I use? That Fendt right there. It holds 40,500. It filled up twice, which would have been 81, and then about 9 more tons, which was 90,089 liters, or 98 liters, I think. Yeah, 90,098 liters is what, and that, all this on the ground, I just dumped it out. That's what all this is. So that was in, let's see, I had to replant in March, because when it came up in March, it had 50% fertilizer. I'm backtracking here a little bit so I don't lose. And then it came up growing in April. So I harvested in May. So then June was growing again. July would have been early harvest. August would have been, and I waited to September because I wanted to go as late as I could to harvest. And when I waited to September, which would have later harvest state, which would have been August, would have started the later harvest state. What's in this trailer down here is what I got the last harvest, which was I harvested later intentionally, 90,556 liters, or 90.5 metric tons. When you do the math there, it's between it and what's on the ground here that I dumped out, a difference of only 458 liters. You say, well, that's not a lot. No, because this field reminds you, like I told you before, this field here, field 3, like I said, it's only 4.3, and that's with all this down here lit up. In the field is probably 2.5, 3 acres, would be my guess. 2.5 acres, just shy of 2 3/4 acres, something like that. Anywho, so off of let's say 2.5 acres here of actual field, you're netting 90,000 liters of grass, which is about 20 or 25 bales, depending on whether you do hay or grass, if you do the math that way. But after I harvested the first time, the only thing I had to do was use this modded roller that I was telling you about right here. And it's in the mod list right down there. And if you come in, it just says roller because it can be used for both, but you customize it, grass roller. When you do that, it puts it to 50%, gives you 50% fertilization, and will put the field to 100% when you use it, fertilization. So by rolling with it, I put it on the front of my tractor, roll with it, and it did a wonderful job. I recommend it. If you're going to do hay and grass, this is the roller to use on them fields. And that's a mod out of the Mod Hub. Anyway, so I got, like I said, 90,556. But I did prove that, yes, you can increase it by one. First and foremost, you have to have 100% yield or you ain't going to get nothing. 2, 100% fertilization. And 3, there is harvest states. And let me go back to the harvest map, and I'm going to show you one other area that I believe, and I've got a test going on this on my other save. There is a harvest state. Look at the long grain rice there. You plant it in April, strictly in April, and it's harvested strictly in September. But if you come down to the other rice, the one that you have to buy, the short grain, or the one you have to buy saplings or grow saplings and use a special planter to plant them and a special harvester, you can plant that in April or in May. But harvesting gives you the option of August or September. So what I'm going to do, and if you, on my other save, I had that rice field in field 7, and I got 25,000 liters the first harvest off of it. That was in April, and that was planting in April, harvesting in August. This next go round, I'm going to plant in May and harvest in September. I'll bet you I'll get anywhere from 26,000 to right at 30,000 liters. I'm going out on a limb maybe, but I'm going to say it. It'll be somewhere between 26,000, 30,000 liters harvest, and that's going to prove that there is a growth state on when you look at down here where it says ready to harvest. Just cause it's yellow, yeah, you can harvest it once it turns that, but just like that right there is let me look at a minute, find another crop that maybe what month are we in? September. So let's look and see. There may be some. What else is harvested in September besides not much long grain rice, but grapes, green beans. Let me see if wheat is. No, wheat finished out in August. So how about canola? Yeah, no, it finished in August. So let's see what else is on the map here. What about all that corn has got to be well, wait a minute, there's canola down there in 75, and it looks like it's ready to harvest. Okay, let's look at canola here a minute. That's weird, because canola should only harvest in July and August. So let's do something here, y'all. And maybe, no, that's spinach. Misread that color, see? That color threw me, looked like canola, but it's actually spinach. Okay, my bad. And it's ready to harvest. So all of them, yeah, okay. But, yeah. Let's look at some of these grass fields. Anyway, lost my train of thought there for a minute, but there is. I'm convinced that there is when you yield, even though it says ready to harvest. See, I mean, and this is yield bonus of 97, so it's not going to be a bad yield, but it ain't going to be a good yield because you ain't at 100%. And spinach, if you look at spinach, where is it at? You can harvest it at any time. You can't, but you can only grow it March through May. You get two harvests off of it, so this would be the second harvest. I mean, you can harvest it even into February all the way, but anyway, it's I feel like, but you see barley, even though it ain't none on the field, I got a field of barley planted, and you see when it harvests is in June and July, and I planted it in October, so I'll harvest it in July. I'm going to see how it does. Same thing with the cotton. I didn't plant in February. I planted in March because I wanted to harvest in November to see. And then I'll go back and plant the other way the second time around, and that'll conclude the testing on that. But that rice, I'm going to prove that there is what's called a harvest, a harvest when you can stage, a harvest stage, different harvest stage. Because I know I'm a retired farmer. In real life, I've seen soybeans that look ready to harvest. You walk in there and yeah, you might could harvest them, but you wouldn't get, because there was enough still going on in that field. It had not dried out, and we say use the word cure down here in the South. That's and we do, because we cure hay that way. We don't ted hay. We let it lay on the field and cure, which means it has to dry, and that's the way harvest is. It certain crops like that. Now maybe and the drier, it gets to a certain dryness, moisture-wise, it around 18-19% moisture, and it's ready to harvest. Generally, when on a crop is first ready to harvest, it ain't gonna be at that. It's gonna either be a little low or a little high. Generally, a little high. It'll be about 20 or 21. That's too much moisture. Wait a day or two, maybe even a week, and you'll be able to harvest. That's the harvest stage. As a farmer, and I'm a retired one myself, if you've done work in a field, you know that. You can look at a crop and tell when it's ready to harvest and when it ain't. On soybean, in the top, that's where the bean is in the top of the plant. You can go there and open that hole up, and inside there'll be moisture. If there's moisture there, you best not harvest that, even though it looks like it's ready to harvest. If it's not much moisture there, she's ready. She's cured enough. She's at peak harvest. Now, I don't know whether I believe they got some of those elements on this game. I know they did on 22, and I'm feel sure they've brought them on to this version. But as I continue working and seeing, and further upcoming later videos, I'll tell you my results when I get to those points. But until then, this is Farming Legacy saying, see ya.